Dear colleagues, welcome to the panel session of the National Wealth Fund Samruk-Kazyna, Carbon Neutrality and Energy for Better Lives, New Opportunities for Kazakhstan. We're delighted that this year Kazakhstan has honored to the right to host such a significant event for the world energy community. During this session, we are going to discuss different decarbonization strategies and innovative solutions that can help to reduce carbon emissions, including renewable energy supply, hydrogen, carbon capture, utilization and storage, and green financial instruments that are used for sustainable development projects and initiatives. As we know, Kazakhstan has declared intentions to reach carbon neutrality by 2060. Samruk-Kazyna, as the largest institutional investor, plays a substantial role in this process, promoting a green economic transformation toward low-carbon, sustainable, and inclusive pathways. Bringing clear energy solutions, we develop cooperations with leading world companies and institutions. Today, we are to discuss with such representatives opportunities for cooperation in energy transition, for emerging markets, and for Kazakhstan in particular. But first, let me introduce the panelists of our meeting. Mr. Yernat Berdigulov, Co-Managing Director for Strategy, Sustainable Development and Digital Transformation, and my fellow colleague from Samruk-Kazyna. Mohammad Abdelqader El Ramahi, Asset Management and Technical Services Director, Masdar, joining us online, I believe, yes. Konstantin Nazarov, Director of Strategic Development in CIS countries and Eastern Europe, Air Products, joining us online as well. Mr. Nariman Manabekov, Country Director in Kazakhstan Asian Development Bank. Mr. Herman Burmeister, Senior Vice President and Country Chair, Shell Kazakhstan. Mr. Dastan Abdulgafarov, Deputy Chairman of the Management Board for Strategy, Investments and Business Development, Kazmunaygas. And Mr. Dinesh Sivasambu, Managing Director at ExxonMobil, Kazakhstan. I'm delighted we have managed to ensure the presence of most of our speakers, while 2 international participants joining us online, as I mentioned. Considering the international format and the broad audience of the World Energy Week, we will lead discussion in English. Simultaneous translation is nevertheless organized. Time duration of our session is 1 hour, and I ask the speakers to follow the time limit for their speeches of 5 minutes. Let me announce the start of our session and wish all participants a productive discussion. Okay. Opening our discussion, I would like to stress that at present, Samruk-Kazyna is drawing up the concept of low-carbon development aimed at the consistent and integrated transition of portfolio companies toward the carbon neutrality and implementation of the ESG principle. Yernat Kudebergenich, could you please share with us about works done by Samruk-Kazyna in this direction?
On behalf of Samruk-Kazyna, I would like to welcome you at the World Energy Week and 14th Kazenergy Eurasian Forum. It's a great pleasure for me to attend the event and share with you Samruk-Kazyna's plans regarding the low-carbon transition. However, we believe that the choice of Kazakhstan is not accidental here as being a platform for holding this event. As in the country's energy mix, the share of coal generation is relatively high, reaching around 70%, with one of the world's cheapest prices for coal and electricity, leading for the economy to become 12th most energy-intensive economy in the world. Therefore, the transition to the low-carbon development requires structural shifts in the economy supported by the government's commitment. The importance and relevance of this event for Kazakhstan appears even more substantial during these unprecedented times. The COVID-19 pandemic has introduced a new focus on the way our society interacts with the planet. Indeed, strengthening low-carbon development technologies is in the heart of ongoing reforms in many countries worldwide, including Kazakhstan, leading to a paradigm shift in thinking. The major question, at least for us at this stage, is not where we should head, but rather how we should achieve this transition. When forming low-carbon strategies, the key aspect is finding a reasonable balance between economic and social development while ensuring ecological resilience. And for countries in which coal generation continues to be the main source of energy, the rapid transition to renewable sources can lead to systemic problems with energy security, resulting in social instability and economic losses. As the world accelerates towards inclusive and sustainable future, At Samruk-Kazyna, we have redefined our strategic development program and policies to reflect our progressive commitment to reach carbon neutrality by 2060, while implementing innovative technologies to ensure sustainable growth. Moreover, we are currently, as Mr. Durmagambetov mentioned, working on a low-carbon development program, which represents a real challenge for us, considering that the company owns and operates the country's largest coal-fired power plants, Ekibastuz GRES 1 and GRES 2, as well as assets in the oil and gas, mining, transportation, and other industries, altogether accountable for more than 10% of the country's CO2 emissions. Addressing all areas of the energy trilemma requires a comprehensive solution on our end that could be built around 4 Ds. The first aspect is diversification of energy sources, which implies for us introduction of gas-fired power plants, including in Almaty region, renewables, hydrogen, and other alternatives. Second is decarbonization of current activities, including via energy efficiency, as well as carbon capture and storage, and offset technologies. Third, digitalization, which allows monitoring and analyzing the environmental impact, conducting scenario analysis, and modeling risks. The fund plans to implement a single digital ecosystem that will secure correspondence to the global standard of carbon accounting, allowing for integration into the mechanism of CBAM regulation. The last but not least for us is the dissemination of so-called green mindset and environmentally responsible leadership culture. Our portfolio companies have already started pilot projects on different areas, including carbon capture and storage, the use of hydrogen, and of course, renewable energy sources. The fund is open to partnerships with the global companies involved in reducing emissions, implementing ESG principles, and in general on the directions of the green global agenda. We are also interested in cooperation with leading financial institutions on different instruments of green financing, including attracting of green bonds, establishing a carbon fund, and implementing offset trading. In conclusion, I truly believe that we must remain dedicated to our core values and sustain a relentless focus on low carbon emissions. The transition to a green development would require efficient coordination on behalf of different stakeholders, and by doing this, we can deliver positive changes for our companies, investors, as well as communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Yernat. Perfect timing. While working on investments projects, the sovereign wealth fund Samruk-Kazyna always prefers to develop cooperation with leading companies that have solid experience in proprietary technologies. Masdar is one of the world leaders in renewable energy, and we are pleased to note that close partnership between Masdar and Samruk-Kazyna was confirmed by signing of memorandum on the development and study of the renewable energy sector in Kazakhstan. Mr. Ramahi, what would be the future trends for RES, in other words, renewable energy systems development, technological, ecological, and financial aspects? What are Masdar's ambitions and goals for RES development in the Commonwealth of Independent States region? Mr. Ramahi.
Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity on behalf of Abu Dhabi Future Energy Company Masdar to speak in this platform. Excellencies, delegates, and distinguished guests. Climate change is a global issue which requires tremendous urge for collective actions to fight against it. I would like to thank the organizers of this esteemed conference for providing a platform to exchange views and opportunities for collaboration. I would like to start my intervention in this platform with a quote from Barack Obama. We are the first generation to feel the effect of climate change and the last generation who can do something about it. So when we talk about renewable energy, we know that renewable energy is key to fight against climate change. Now, reaching net zero by 2050 requires further rapid deployment of available technologies, as well as a widespread use of technologies that are not on the market yet. Clean energy innovations must accelerate rapidly, with governments putting research and development, demonstration, and deployment at the core of energy and climate policy. Some of the future trends that we witnessed for renewable energy sources, RES, firstly, most new capacity generation will be renewable across the globe. Secondly, emerging green hydrogen economy will expand across the clean energy spectrum and infrastructure. Thirdly, renewable energy storage and batteries will be the fastest growing asset class in energy industry with cost-efficient utility scale installation. Fourth, more efficient supply chain to optimize the cost of renewable energy generation. And lastly, the wind energy installments will focus mainly on offshores due to space constraints. As far as the financial aspects, as the moderator mentioned, this goes, renewable energy sources are already cost competitive with conventional power sources as we speak now. A process Masdar has played a significant role in by competition, by introducing new technologies and new techniques, new integrated systems that has helped in pushing prices into more and more competitive ranges. We have been playing a very important role to set number of benchmarks for energy tariffs. Now, advances in renewable technology supported by appropriate policy regimes, which are very important, have also enhanced the bankability of that entire sector and led to significant capital flows in the past decade. Core renewable technologies such as solar and wind have been attracting over $300 billion of investment each year, and there is still room of growth. Moreover, we must also focus on direct capital of emerging markets, where the opportunities are exceptional, but where risks of investments remain high as well. Now, Masdar today, both a partner in some of the world's most iconic renewable energy projects and a leading voice in driving the global sustainability agenda. We have built with Masdar City a flagship sustainable community and a world-leading free zone with an innovation and technology cluster as at its core. Home to more than 200 companies from 6 continents. Over the past decade, the city has piloted technologies in areas such as mobility, transportation, construction, renewable energy, and sustainable living. I welcome you all to visit Masdar City to learn more about the innovative technologies we are implementing, and also invite you to participate in the Abu Dhabi Sustainability Week taking place every year in January, where we will showcase most of these technologies in that platform. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ramahi. I think Abu Dhabi is beautiful in January compared to other weather.
Yeah.
Okay. New decarbonization approaches put industries on pathway to change. Up-to-date technologies open new opportunities for hydrogen that was restrained by such factors as high cost, technical complications, and lack of infrastructure. Konstantin Stanislavovich, and I'm directing my question to Mr. Nazarov. Air Product has leading positions in hydrogen production. What role does hydrogen energy play today in decarbonization? And what advantages and perspectives does it have in Kazakhstan? Mr. Nazarov.
Good afternoon. First of all, thank you very much for inviting me to participate in this great event. Answering your question about the decarbonization trends for Kazakhstan and how we see it as a professional company in this area. Air Products is just to explain why we are commenting, let's say, on this, because Air Products is a leading company for more than 50 years working globally with the gases like CO2 and hydrogen, and having great experience in dealing with those gases in terms of production, in terms of handling and utilization. So what I can say about the trends and the potential developments. Actually, few interesting facts that according to the data which is considered by the European Commission right now, the amount of hydrogen to be produced, for instance, in the European Union within by the year 2050 will be something like twice as big as it is produced now. However, if we consider the areas of production of hydrogen, those areas will be mostly focused on three biggest growth segments. And those three segments are increase and expansion of current production, which is mostly industrial. And when we are talking about industrial production, we are talking about production of hydrogen for chemical and petrochemical purposes mostly. So in this respect, if we consider the current situation with hydrogen in chemical and petrochemical, the hydrogen is mostly produced by the reforming method, which also produces a lot of CO2. So what we see the development in this area will be is that mostly the hydrogen which is produced in chemical and petrochemical industries will be produced in bigger volumes. However, with the use of carbon capture, utilization and storage technologies, which means that the CO2 which comes from the production and in the chemical and petrochemical industries will be captured and stored. The two key questions here to be considered is where that CO2 will go, and the second question is who is going to pay for this. As soon as we answer these questions, as soon as the companies, let's say, and governments will answer those questions, we can say that this is the starting point, or let's say the trigger for the sustainable what's called blue hydrogen project. So the hydrogen which is produced from the steam reforming or other methods with the production of CO2 as a byproduct and utilization, storage and utilization of that. The second area of development and growth of hydrogen production in the global scale is actually hydrogen for mobility. So that is the use for the commercial transport on a global scale. What we see here is that it's a great area for the introduction and for the use what's called of green hydrogen, the hydrogen which is produced without any emission of CO2 by such methods, for instance, as electrolysis with use of renewable energy sources. And in this case, the two fundamental and the key questions which we need to answer is, first, what is the cost of such a hydrogen? Because the methods of production of green hydrogen are already more expensive than the current methods, for instance, of reforming. And the second question which we need to answer is how to deliver that hydrogen to the place of use, keeping it green, let's say, because if we talk about the green hydrogen, it should be green from the place of production till the place of use. And there are several technologies here which are developed. For instance, the Air Products is developing on a global scale the project of the production of green hydrogen in Saudi Arabia, with the subsequent transportation of that hydrogen global-wide. And what we plan in that project is that the hydrogen will be fully green, 100% green from the point of production, using 100% renewable energy sources till the storage and delivery. So the hydrogen will be converted into the ammonia, and that ammonia will be transported or delivered to specific places by, for instance, sea vessels, which will use that ammonia, green ammonia, as the fuel. And at the place of discharge, then there will be trucks also using, for instance, either the hydrogen or the ammonia as the fuel and delivering to the final point of use.
Okay, Konstantin Stanislavovich, we're sort of running out of time.
Okay, so basically the idea, as soon as we will be able to answer those questions on the cost and the means of delivery of the green hydrogen, that means that the government and the companies will be ready to use those technologies and introduce those technologies in the country. And we believe these are the two areas. So the using of converting of the current hydrogen production to blue one with the carbon capture and utilization, and production and delivery of green hydrogen in Kazakhstan is also a potential area of development similar to what is developing on a global scale. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Konstantin Stanislavovich. International financial institutions, along with transnational corporations, adapt their strategies and investment priorities to climate agenda. Nariman Talatbekovich, we met last week in our office. You already shared with us, but maybe you can share it with a broader audience. And could you please tell us more about the steps taken by the Asian Development Bank to support decarbonization in Kazakhstan? And is the ADB going to increase funding of projects improving energy efficiency and green economy?
Thank you, Yerlan. With pleasure. First, from the outset, ADB's energy policy is quite aligned with the SDGs goal number 7. We stopped it a while ago, coal industry's financing. We are moving rapidly with the financing of other sources, especially on the green financing. In Kazakhstan, we have relatively recently started the real financing. A couple of solar projects a few years ago. Also, Samruk Energy benefited from our loan with the development of the plants on green area. And also, only a couple of weeks ago, we provided 100 million in tenges equivalent US dollars, 100 million to Kazakhstan for installment of smart gas meters. But this is only financing. Apart from this, development banks like ADB providing technical assistance grant financing. And we are doing in multiple directions. Multi-pronged means first, we are supporting Kazakh government for development its heating legislation, the heat supply law, and at least 10 bylaws which need to be supported. Then we are developing together with the energy people 5 hydro stations, the renewable source. The third area, we are working jointly with high-level experts in development of storage facilities, hybrid renewables. By the way, on the renewables, we are bringing an expert on the 13th of October to talk with you and to have a round table how the potential of Kazakhstan can be explored. And the last is also in relation to specific PPP projects which are potentially in the development umbrella, including on wind. Let me briefly share what the ADB sees as a trend. There are a lot of trends, but applicable to Kazakhstan. First, with regard to renewables itself, the profitability is increasing, prices are gradually decreasing, and also it's becoming quite competitive, and even from the investment point of view, it's more beneficial now than the fossil fuels. So some can argue, but for us it's the obvious trend. The second trend about the green financing, which is in demand, growing rapidly. And here it's a bit unfortunate that in Kazakhstan we have only one specific case on green financing. As such, ADB stands ready to provide every possible solutions for activation of the green financing programs, including from the state-owned enterprises. The third trend is about geothermals. I already mentioned it, but many cities, for example, in China, 50 cities already moved to the geothermals for the heating. And in Kazakhstan, there are a lot of tremendous potential, and we identified at minimum 14 cities where such a possibilities exist and could be explored further. The fourth trend is that maybe I will not touch about it. This is already touched about the green hydrogen. But the last one, and for me it's more important, I would say the main one, is a so-called adoption of energy transition mechanisms by the countries. Some of the Southeast Asian countries adopted such a mechanism or on the move for the adoption. What does it mean? It's just a creation like Kazakh government is exploring for setting a carbon fund. ADB would like to establish a carbon reduction fund to speed up amortization or to get away from the faster get away from or phase out of coal-fired power plants, which is producing or emitting 70+% of the emissions in the country. With the setup of such a fund, the essence is the fund becomes an owner, and then the revenues which receives, including from the both from multinational and donor development partners of Kazakhstan, we will be repaying a bit faster the debt of the investors. So this is on move, and I think it contains a great potential to the country.
Okay, Nariman Talvich, thank you very much. Decarbonization trends are included in the strategies of leading companies around the world. Royal Dutch Shell is one of the largest oil producers. Mr. Herman Burmeister, I'll answer the question about Astor Piazzolla a little bit afterwards, but for now, how would the global energy transition agenda affect your company worldwide and in Kazakhstan? And is it a threat or an opportunity? The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, colleagues. I think it is a great pleasure to be here, particularly after just arriving in country, so giving the opportunity to come here and talk about such important topic, it is a great privilege. To give you an idea of Shell's footprint, we as the world's largest oil and gas trader in the world, we sell about 4.6% of the total energy products that are consumed in the world, and we produce 1.4 whereabouts of total primary energy. Energy transition is inevitable, is here, is impacting all of us, and is changing our lives, hopefully for good. From a global perspective, Shell is not staying on the sidelines on this energy transition, and our Powering Progress strategy, it is aimed to achieve a net zero emissions by 2050. Certainly a challenge not only for us, but for the whole industry. We have a highly competitive portfolio of assets, products, and markets positions. And I think delivering that energy transition, changing our company, it is a big challenge, but a bigger opportunity that we fully embrace. I think Powering Progress strategy is not about Shell, it's about us, it's about society, it's about us companies in doing something together to achieve that ultimate goal. Specifically talking about here in Kazakhstan, through NCOC, KPO, our existing joint ventures together with our partners, we have set a couple of years ago clear ambitions, goals on carbon footprint, carbon reductions, and I think that strategies are being delivered with passion and discipline. In the case of NCOC, towards by the end of the decade, I think we are targeting a reduction of our carbon footprint in the order of between 15 and 25%. So it's working together, discipline, ambition targets, ambition timelines, through technology and innovation that we can make these reductions to take place. So we don't only work on the assets that we currently have, on our existing operations, but also, again, with technology and ambition, looking at other projects that we're planning to come into stream, making sure that the carbon footprint of the projects coming, or the new oil and gas that we're planning to develop, with much stricter emissions footprint than previous similar projects than before. So we work on our assets, but also we work with our partners, and I think Dustin probably is gonna maybe mention a bit about that. So a couple of weeks ago, with Kaimuna Gas, we signed a memorandum of understanding to share collaboration on carbon capture, utilization, and storage technologies. Shell has some experience, and I think it's by sharing our experience with our partners, with some of our stakeholders, is that make us stronger in order to achieve that ultimate goal of a lower carbon economy. We also do that not only with partners, but we also do that with future generations. I think in Shell in Kazakhstan, we have a program called Solar for Schools in partnership with the Nazarbayev Intellectual Schools, which is a program about putting generating renewable energy for schools that, other than just reducing the power bill of the schools, it brings to the students, to the future generations, that passion on science, technology, engineering, and mathematics so vital for the years to come. So I was last week in Atirau, inaugurating our 4th project, and it's great talking to the young generations, their passion and their interest in the energy transition. And I think investing our time and efforts in sharing with them our experience, it is a great platform for them into the future. And I think last but not least, I would like also to commend the presidential's initiative on increasing transparency on greenhouse trading system. I think bringing that transparency across similar other countries in the world, it sets a good, groundbreaking and equal place for trading systems to encourage the companies to do the right thing, changing their business models and reducing the carbon footprint. So I think from a Shell perspective, we have a strategy, we work with partners, we work with our assets, we work with younger generations. There is no single path for the energy transition. We just have an holistic approach to it, and again, very happy to be given the opportunity to be here today.
Thank you. Thank you very much. The group of companies of Samruk-Kazyna aspire to develop and incorporate the latest technologies of decarbonization. About a month ago, what Mr. Burmeister has just mentioned, Kazmunaygas and Shell have signed a memorandum of cooperation in the area of CO2 capture, utilization, and storage technology. This step provides for joint exploration of potential opportunities for implementation of the CCUS pilot project in the country. Dastan Alimesh, we've been working with your team, with your effective team, very closely. We know actually what you're doing, but also could you please tell us about Kazmunaygas project in sustainable development?
Yerlan, thank you very much for your question. It's a great pleasure to be here and to listen and share thoughts about a very important topic today in the worldwide agenda. Kazmunaygas, as a national oil and gas company, is fully committed to sustainable business. This is reflected in our ESG rating. Last year, we ranked 33rd among 119 global industry players, which reflects companies' high indicators and our ambitions in terms of sustainable development. In order to maintain its economic attractiveness and competitiveness, just recently we adopted a corporate low-carbon strategy that sets a target goal to achieve 15% decrease in CO2 emissions by 2031. Given the country's expectations, this is in line with Kazakhstan ambitions and that Kazakhstan undertook under Paris Agreement. In terms of number, KMG contributes only around 2.5% to Kazakhstan's emissions based on the 2020 results. In terms of numbers, KMG plan to decrease CO2 footprint by 1.6 million tons in 10 years. We believe that we can obtain quick results in two areas of the program. Primarily, it's energy efficiency in our production fields and our refineries. We had a big potential there. And second is involvement of renewable energy sources in the overall energy balance of Kazmunaygas. In particular, there is a potential to reduce CO2 emissions by energy efficiency by 10%, which is around 1 million tons in 10-year time. And through implementation of renewables and installing that renewables in our production cycles by 600,000 tons. KMG considers various renewable projects. We signed a memorandum with Shell, as German already mentioned. The idea is to explore carbon capture project in one of our oil fields. Shell would provide the technical and commercial expertise in terms of assisting Kazmunegas in that area. So the plan is to cascade that to all other fields that can be suitable, if you find suitable reservoirs for that in our other fields. In terms of renewables, we plan to acquire renewable stations both in Kazakhstan and abroad. This is our policy. And we plan to construct renewable facilities primarily in our production fields to have independent supply of green energy. For these particular projects, Kazmunegas can offer to potential investors and financial institutions ability to participate in such of the projects. We can provide long off-take contracts, 15-20 years, that would be commercially beneficial for Kazmunegas and for potential investors. Meanwhile, realizing the potential of additional decarbonization measures in the mid and long term, we have already started to research and test hydrogen technologies, CO2 capture and storage project, forest climate projects in order to be ready to scale them up when conditions become favorable in Kazakhstan, especially the legislation base. Understanding the role of hydrogen energy, KMG has begun to explore the prospects of hydrogen production in the long run. First of all, we are talking about green and blue hydrogen. To explore the prospects of hydrogen development in Kazakhstan, we set up R&D center, hydrogen R&D center at Kazmunegas. Taking into account that Kazmunegas is already one of the largest producer of hydrogen, but it's gray hydrogen, of course, in Kazakhstan. Jointly with Air Liquide, we plan to launch next year a pilot project at one of the refineries to produce hydrogen and to launch hydrogen vehicles on fuel cells in Atrau region. This is our plans for the next year. That we're going to done jointly with Air Liquide, our partner on the refineries. As I said, we effectively trying to set up cooperations with international players. Just recently, we extended our cooperation with our partner ENI. We signed a big agreement in terms of jointly developing decarbonization projects in Kazakhstan. So primarily focus is construction of renewables, both for our production facilities and for national grid. We agreed to further explore a few hydrogen projects and to look at agriculture projects like production of biofuels. So this is all on the way. We have a lot of plans, and the new carbon development strategy is going to be the biggest part of our updated strategy that we're going to agree with board of directors and our shareholders this year. So thus, we welcome, as Kazmunegas, we welcome potential investors, financial institutions to jointly explore and set up a joint activity on this decarbonization growth agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Dostan Alimesich. Continuing our conversation about the new business paradigm to address climate change, I propose to discuss the vision of one of the largest oil companies in the world, ExxonMobil. Mr. Sivasambu, taking into account the commitment of Kazakhstan to reach carbon neutrality by 2060, what roles do government and industry play for Kazakhstan to achieve this ambitious goal? Mr. Sivasambu.
Thank you. First of all, let me say it's indeed a pleasure to be here today to attend the forum and participate in this panel with my esteemed co-panelists. I think, and I would also like to thank Kaz Energy for the opportunity to be here today, and as well congratulate Kaz Energy for, hosting World Energy Week. I think it's a great event, and I look forward to the remaining sessions. But coming back to your question, if you look at the IEA or any of the other energy outlooks, I mean, the reality is here that globally energy demand is going to continue to grow as population grows and societies move from, especially in the developing economies to a developed state. And so we need to find ways that we can meet those demands. And I think oil and gas is going to continue to play a role while the renewables and other energy technologies mature and are able to penetrate the market. So how do we continue this to meet this growing demand and at the same time support society's needs to achieve a net zero carbon emissions by 2060. This is a complex global issue, and it requires close collaboration, in my view, between industry and governments to reach meaningful solutions. At ExxonMobil, we are committed to supporting and addressing the issue of climate change, and as reflected in our 4 pillars of our climate strategy. So when we look at our climate strategy, it's about managing efficient emissions in our operations, delivering products that can help the consumers and our customers become more efficient. We try to actively engage in climate policy, such as, even in Kazakhstan, we're actively engaged, whether it's the oil and gas advocacy, working with the Republic of Kazakhstan to, look at the policies that can develop a sustainable solution for the country to achieve its net zero ambitions, carbon neutrality by 2060. And then lastly, it's about developing and deploying scalable technology. We believe that's where we would differentiate ourselves by providing the scale to make a change and deliver on the commitments that society is looking for. And to that extent, you would have seen that earlier this year, ExxonMobil launched the low carbon solutions business to commercialize some of these opportunities. And because we felt that we had an extensive range of low carbon energy portfolio that we needed to find a way to monetize, and we're pretty excited about this business. That's talking about ExxonMobil, but now coming back to the Republic of Kazakhstan, I think I'd like to commend the Republic on its ambitions to achieve carbon neutrality by 2060. And ExxonMobil is ready to support the country in that journey. As you can see, as our partners and Mr. Herman just mentioned, we're active in our joint ventures in Kazakhstan. And if you look at Tengiz and Kashagan, they have invested significantly in GHG abatement projects, whether it's related to energy efficiency, leak detection, fugitive methane emissions reduction, routine flaring. Both Tengiz and Kashagan are very active in this arena and have very strong ambitions to lower their emissions for the benefit of society and the Republic of Kazakhstan. However, industry alone cannot achieve society goals. Governments must play an important part in facilitating the development of markets for low carbon products and services. We rely on and I think an important role for government is also they can encourage consumer behavior and enable the private sector to invest in the most effective technologies to meet demand. I think our global experience would indicate market mechanisms versus hard mandates will drive more measurable and sustainable improvements. Predictable, stable, cost-effective policies are necessary to incentivize the development and scalability of a wide range of low-carbon technologies across the economy. These policies should be clear, cost-effective, technology-neutral, and aligned with free market and science-based principles. One of these measures in Kazakhstan is that they can begin to implement in the near term is strengthening its emissions trading system. To minimize risk and build investor confidence, the ETS scheme is something that can be looked at, and if done properly, can definitely enhance the investment climate in this country. And as much as possible, the ETS system should align as closely as possible with the EU ETS system to facilitate trading across borders. The framework for carbon-related quotas and payments allocations must be clear, transparent, and non-discriminatory. Natural gas will be another key enabler for Kazakhstan's energy transition. It is critical to recognize and enable the potential of natural gas to be a bridge of fuel as the country moves from a conventional to a greener, cleaner economy. Let me sum up by saying that jointly we can arrive at a balanced approach for the benefit of Kazakhstan and investors alike, and ExxonMobil stands ready to support Kazakhstan in that journey. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sivasambu. Dear speakers and participants of the discussion, I express my gratitude for a productive session. Today we were able to discuss important aspects of decarbonization, such as low-carbon development technologies, the vision of the international community on climate projects, and I believe that the discussion turned out to be rather capacious and fruitful. We live in a rapidly warming world. I believe that today's meeting has once again shown the importance of dialogue between various participants in the process for developing joint measures to combat climate change, discussing joint actions for the full use of the benefits and opportunities of low-carbon development. Green energy transition will need to be managed carefully by governments, corporations, and civil society. In conclusion, I would like to emphasize that Samruk-Kazyna fully supports and strives to adhere to the principles of sustainable development. We believe that reducing the impact on the environment can only be achieved through joint efforts, and our company is ready to contribute to achieving the goals of decarbonization. I believe that initiatives made at the World Energy Week will become the important part of the global effort to decarbonize. Okay. Having said this, actually, we concluded this session. The question, do we have enough time for the questions from the audience? 10 minutes still, yeah? Questions from the audience? No? Oh, here the question. Oh, you want me to read this question? Okay. There are two questions to the participants and then two questions from the chat from them. Yernat Kudybergenich, one question to you. Samruk-Kazyna is going to draw up a conceptual concept of low carbon development. Will it be mandatory for all portfolio companies of the fund?
We put for ourselves a goal of decreasing our carbon footprint by 10% in the next 10 years. So therefore, all the portfolio companies will be for sure participating in achieving this goal. And basically, all of our portfolio companies are developing their own decarbonization programs to assist this goal.
Thank you. There are two questions actually in Russian. Let me translate it. And one particular question is on R&D development at Samruk-Kazyna for the low carbon development. Is there any support of universities and scientific collective? And may I respond to this because I'm directly involved into this? The answer is yes. Based in Samruk-Kazyna, we have a scientific council which will be responsible, actually is responsible for supporting all R&D initiatives within the fund, and definitely we are working with all involved communities and universities, and will definitely support all the scientific teams as well. And the question to KMG, okay, let me translate it. What type of energy will be used for the generation of clean hydrogen in Atyrau? This is RES or
basically we are following
gas.
Basically we are following step-by-step approach. So the pilot project would envisage usage of hydrogen that currently produced by our refiners. I said that's gray hydrogen. But the final goal is to produce green hydrogen that would come from renewables. So this is our goal, not only in Atyrau, but also in Magistar region. And today we are looking at such kind of the projects.
Okay, Dastan Alimesh, thank you very much. I think we finished our agenda for today, and having said this, I'm concluding this session. Dear participants, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Hello there, and welcome back. What a great session. They're really looking at really reducing the carbon footprint, and indeed bringing in some great companies there, some great suppliers, to see what they're doing in terms of how they work with the producers. I want to bring Chokan in here. Chokan, well done there, great session, and Yerlan did a really good job. But, I mean, for me, I think what we see in this is that great commitment that's there. But definitely it's something that is in progress, but perhaps it's not happening as fast as it needs to happen. But I would imagine that we're all very encouraged by the fact that so much is happening. What did you think, Chokan? We only have a few minutes.
Yeah, thank you, Edna. From what we've seen today, not only in this session and previous session, that sounded rather optimistic, I would even say. And the last session was brilliant in terms of the overview of the already existing and being applied technologies to speed and the energy transition. And it's fantastic if they can be used. However, there is one problem which was discussed during the session, and I would like to emphasize it. It's an underestimation or underdevelopment of both basic and applied research in Kazakhstan. Today's level of R&D on the national level was 0.1%. Is apparently clearly not enough for. And it's not only about technology, but it's also about basic research, which is a reservoir of knowledge and expertise to develop technologies and to implement technology transfer, transfer of these brilliant technologies. That's a
Indeed, I think that's so important. But again, I think that is the type of thing that will come in time. I mean, I was very optimistic there listening to Mr. Menapakov from ADP, and talking about how interested they were in green finance and actually making sure that there were funds available, particularly looking at the carbon reduction fund. I mean, all of this is rather new. And I think at the speed of which the world is going, the fact that Kazakhstan, already is moving in this direction, it's a great indication. So I think it is a matter of time. And you also look at those big players like Air Products, like Shell, like ExxonMobil, they have a responsibility in country. And I think it's put a bit of pressure on them. And we're going to also see more help when it comes to research and development and training.
And not only talking about not only industry, but important part of the triple helix of development in which the state and the industry work together with academia. And talking about from my side, the University of Cambridge I'm part of is very interested in launching a lab, a basic fundamental science research lab in Kazakhstan.
Indeed it is. I mean, I think that will come, and I have no doubt that will come. I think it is frustrating when we don't see enough of it happening, but even in, clearly developed markets, there's probably not enough. So it is something on a bigger scale, and I think it will be great opportunities in the green economy, but once the funding is there. We heard a lot there about gas, obviously a lot about hydrogen, and again, it comes down to, I loved what our colleague from Air Products was saying there, Mr. Nazarov talking about, money and delivery. And I loved it when he said it has to be green, you know, from source to destination. That's also something I'm going to look forward to hearing more of that in our other panels.
Brilliant, brilliant. I fully agree. Mr. Ramahi pointed out, pinned down the most important things, and he returned to them as well.
It is. I mean, I think sustainability the whole way through, the work that Kazmani Gas is doing too. You know, I have to commend all of the companies there. I think without a doubt, we're definitely on the right direction. And even what ExxonMobil was saying there, you know, the work they're doing at Tengiz and Kashagan as well. And again, I think, you know, their low carbons business unit, whereby ExxonMobil has really gotten behind that now. So great to see they're working with the partners and the joint ventures in Kazakhstan. It's very important. What do you think?
Yeah, the contribution from all the giants operating in the Western Kazakhstan is extremely important. And here in my capacity, I belong to the British Technical University, and really that Shell and Chevron, above all, keep contributing a lot into the development of R&D and supporting education with all they can.
Indeed, I think they'll continue to do it. They know this is a new economy. They know there are endless possibilities. When we look to the transition. They're going to need skilled workers. They're going to need bright scientific minds. You know, they're going to need data scientists. So I think it's only a matter of time before they're making sure that they're homegrown in Kazakhstan. So there's a great new industry, I think, just on the corner. And I can see the foundations of it being built already in Kazakhstan.